And we are going to play the theme song.
I ain't scared of you.
Hill Kings Podcast.
Welcome back. Welcome back to the only show where half of the hosts remember to press record.
Yeah. We'll
If
let you
you're
decide which one it
if
is.
you're wondering why like you just found this podcast and you saw, oh, they posted 2 episodes in a day. That's weird. Why'd they do that? That's because it's because the last episode didn't turn out exactly
The
as good as
file, the
we would
file was
hope.
corrupted, dude.
Yeah, the
Something was
file was
wrong.
corrupted.
Something was
Oof.
wrong with the file, dude. Stinky file.
But welcome back. We're here. We're running it back.
Yes, the Hill Kings podcast. Here today to talk about season 1, episode 2, Square Peg.
We're jumping right in. You're not even
Jumping
gonna
right
ask how
in.
my day has been, or
Um, I I don't really want to
you
know.
don't care. Yeah.
I know how it was. You worked a half day, so I'm sure it was
Yeah.
great.
Half day Fridays.
Oh, that's so nice. But
Ah!
yeah, you what you got? You got a new record in the mail. I got
Yeah.
some new shoes.
Yeah.
It's a Friday.
Chris was showing me his feet.
Hmm. Keep
That's
your
for
eyes
the
out for that
Patreon.
Patreon.
Yeah,
Yeah.
when we start a Patreon. Should we jump right into it with a little bit of this week in Arlen, man?
Yes. Yes. Bradley, you're going to be driving the mower for this
Yes,
episode.
I will be driving the mower or covering the recap of the episode. But first, let's take a look. Let's see what was going on round town back in the 90s style
Heck yeah.
on everyone's favorite segment, This Week in Arlen.
This week in Ireland.
All right. This week in Arlen. There's my soundboard for you.
Hmm.
So this is the segment on the show where we talk about what was going on in the world at the time of the episode drop. This episode, episode 2 of King of the Hill, Square Peg, came out on January 19th, 1997. A couple fun facts about that day/week. But first, let's take a look. Let's take a look at the TV guide. Let's see what was going on that night. We got America's Funniest Home Videos again. We got the inaugural gala on CBS, which I looked up.
Oh,
It was
who
like
would that have
it
been?
was the
Yeah.
53rd annual presidential inaugural gala, which I don't know if it's televised anymore, but it was like
Hmm.
straight up just agitprop on TV.
Yeah, of
It was just
course.
like Amera blasting.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think Stevie Wonder was there. There was like a lot of performances, and
Oh, heck yeah. Which
yeah,
president was it in 97? Would that have been Bill?
this would have still been Clinton. Yeah,
Yeah.
Slick Willie.
Billy Boy, the man
Yeah.
from Hope.
Yeah, I'd like to find out when that stopped though, like when they
Who the last one
stopped
was.
doing it.
I I don't know. Yeah, I don't
But
know. What else is there?
we also have Twisted World of Marge Simpson, which is a solid, it's like a B episode of The Simpsons right
Mhm.
before. We have the 54th annual Golden Globes, which we'll talk about more in a minute, but King of the
Oh.
Hill was right up against the Golden Glizzies, dude.
Ooh.
Yeah.
The Golden
Uh
Globes.
Parenthood, do you ever watch that show?
I don't think I ever watched
It
Parenthood.
was good. It was a solid show.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what was going on that night.
Oh, it was a real stinker of an episode on Lois and Clark.
Yeah. 54th Golden Globes. We had Tom Cruise winning Best Actor for Jerry Maguire.
Classic.
Peak Nicole Kidman. I don't know if you also had a huge crush on Nicole Kidman
She has yet to
in the
peak in my
90s.
eyes. I don't
Yeah,
know what you're talking
she's
about.
still doing great.
Uh,
X-Files and ER fucking swept that shit. ER
yeah.
had like 5 dubs. X-Files had 3. I believe, Best Actor and Actress in a TV or
Ooh.
miniseries.
Man, ER had a
And
grip on my mom.
yeah, my
She
mom
loved
loved
ER.
ER too,
Moms loved
especially like
ER.
the George Clooney years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that show ran for a long time.
Yeah.
Should we just make this an ER podcast?
Yes, welcome back to the waiting room, folks. It's the only ER watchback pod that
Everyone
nobody
knows.
wants or
Everyone
asked
knows that
for.
Scrubs is the only valid
That's true.
healthcare television show. It's the most accurate too. Both of our
Mhm.
wives are in healthcare, and I'm sure they would both attest to that.
Love Scrubs.
Professor Snape won Best Actor for something called Rasputin.
R.I.P.
Yeah, R.I.P. to the GOAT, Alan Rickman.
Mhm.
And also we mentioned last week, or this week, I guess, that Madonna was in a movie, the number one movie in the country at the time, called Evita. She won Best Actor at the Golden Globes this year.
Oh,
And
whoa.
we had a nice appearance of her weird fake British accent
Oh, heck
that she
yeah.
did, but it's like kind of
Nice.
vague here.
And I have much to be thankful for.
It's like you can hear twinges of it.
Mm-hmm.
Making this movie was an incredible adventure for me, both artistically and spiritually, and I learned so much.
Ooh,
And
there in the so much.
I will never
Yeah.
forget it, the experience. And
Yeah.
Yeah,
she won
interesting. Yeah, I
Best
totally
Actress.
forgot that that accent is fake.
Yeah. The Rockets beat the Bulls 102-86. Hakeem with 32, 16, and 4, and MJ dropped 26, 14, and 5. As we
Sheesh.
all know, this was during the second three-peat of the Bulls. This was peak Chicago Bulls. So I gotta mention the Bulls, especially losing in that
Big
season.
Chicagan.
Yeah, crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But Hakeem Olajuwon was the freaking GOAT, dude.
The late 90s were a tough time for anyone who wasn't Michael Jordan.
That is true.
Not entirely true, but it
According
was tough.
to birthdayjams.com, the number one song in the world was Can't Nobody Hold Me Down, although Tony Braxton was still number one in the charts and our
Recent
hearts.
RIP.
Tony Braxton died?
I believe, yeah, he died yesterday.
She.
Oh, shoot.
That's
Okay, I'm thinking Tony Bennett.
dude. You're thinking
Tony
of
Bennett.
Tony Bennett.
My bad.
But here's a glimpse.
False alarm,
We
listeners.
had classic, like,
why you wanna take us under?
okay. Well, I guess YouTube doesn't want me to listen to that. Airframe by Michael Crichton was the number one book in the country at the time. Never read it, but Jurassic Park fucking slaps. It's one of my favorite books. So shout out Mikey C.
Sound out in the comment if we should read a book.
Nah, I'm not doing that. Beverly Hills Ninja premiered that
Nice.
Friday, which banger of a movie. Love Chris Farley.
Oh, yeah.
14% though on the tomato meter.
Mm-hmm. Sounds
Crazy.
about right.
That's wild. It was Robert E. Lee's 190th birthday. It was also Paula Dean's 50th. So shout out to those two racist legends.
I was gonna say, what's the connection there? I don't get it. No, just kidding.
They're both racist.
They're both from the South.
Yes. But yeah, that was this week in Arlen. Should we jump right into the episode?
Heck yeah. Disclaimer though, that is not to say everyone from the South. Every white person from the South is racist, but those
No, they are.
two on that slide.
I'm saying that.
Yes. Well, you're Canadian, so
Let
everything.
it be known, everyone in the South who has ever been and ever will be
Mm-hmm.
is racist.
He's putting it on wax, folks. It is known, Khaleesi.
All right, let's get into the episode.
Hell yeah, dude.
Shall we?
Square peg.
All right. So, Square Peg, second episode of King of the Hill, written by Joe Stillman, directed by Gary McCarver. The episode was nominated for a Primetime Emmy for Outstanding Animated Program for shows less than 1 hour. I guess that was a category. And we had a guest star on this one, a low-key one that I don't even remember.
Yeah, I don't think I
Mary,
caught this.
yeah, Mary Shear guested as Gracie. She is best known as Freddie's mom from iCarly, but she was also
Okay.
Susie Kokoschka in Hey Arnold.
Oh,
She also did voices on Family Guy, The Angry Beavers. She's been on Seinfeld, Johnny Bravo.
ooh,
Uh, prolific, prolific.
nice. Cool. I didn't
So
pick up on that.
shout out Mary Shear as Gracie. Summary from TV Guide for this episode is short and sweet. Peggy is called upon to teach sex ed, but finds it an incredibly sensitive topic to approach.
Yes, this is a very aptly named episode, definitely.
So we open on Peggy in her office, in her little it's basically just like the broom closet of the house,
Yeah,
right?
the hot water closet.
She's grading papers seemingly randomly, which I found really funny.
Yes.
She's just like thinks for a second and then writes B on the paper. And then we hear Hank kind of yelp and his back is out.
Mm-hmm.
Peggy comes out to put some icy hot on it.
Oh,
And
I see.
yeah.
Oh, hot.
And then
Uh,
Bobby comes in asking them to sign a permission slip.
and Hank says, not in front of the BOY.
Yeah.
Spells out boy in front of Bobby. I will say the office in the hot water closet is one of my favorite jokes.
Your mic just cut out for a
I,
second.
I know I twiddled the thumb.
Don't be
Here's another
twiddling
edit.
shit, man. We had
Oh,
last episode as our
oh,
learning
fuck.
moment, our little learning moment where we remember to press record now. But yeah, I do love the office water heater.
Wow.
Yeah, it's one of my
Um,
favorite. It's one of my favorite locations within the house because there's a couple of other like, there's the living room and the kitchen and the front and the backyard, but the office water closet is one of those like special locations we don't get to see a ton, kind of like the den. So I've always liked the hot water closet office.
there was a room like that in that 70s show. Like
Hmm.
Red had like his own little like man room. I don't know if you
Hmm.
ever remember that, but like that I
Hmm.
think they only ever showed it like once on the
Yeah,
show.
it's because other people besides the dad are not supposed to go into the room.
Yeah.
That's the room where dads go to be alone.
But I do love on a show, like on a sitcom specifically, when you get like a new like set area. Like in
Hmm.
Everybody Loves Raymond, when they would show like the basement, like Ray downstairs in the basement in his little office.
I'm not a Ray man.
You've never watched Everybody Loves Raymond?
I've watched a little bit of it, but I'm not a
Classic
Ray man.
90s television. I love Ray Romano. Deborah. Um anyway,
So yeah, not in
uh
front of the BOY.
yeah, Bobby comes in with a permission slip for sex ed. Hank and Peggy are noticeably uncomfortable by this.
Hmm.
They think that it should be taught in the home. Hank, a line that stood out to me, he said, can't do anything about it anyway with his features.
Yeah, with
Like
his
Bobby's
features.
not even going to be able to get laid.
Yeah, another part that stuck out to me here, Hank sends Bobby to his room, not because he's asking him to sign the permission slip,
Mm-hmm.
just because he brings up that it's like a program coming out of Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
And he's, Washington, Bobby, go to your room. Yeah.
And we also get the first reference in this scene of Peggy being substitute teacher of the year 1996.
Mhm. It opens visually on that shot of her trophy, which is
Yeah.
in the office.
Yeah.
And we see that trophy, I think, a lot as the show will go on.
Yeah. Character staple for Peg
Mhm.
Leg. So we also get a classic line from Bobby after this where Peggy goes in to talk to him, where he says, like Peggy asks if he has any questions about sex, and he says he's worried about being a slut.
I'm a little worried about being a slut.
So good. And
So
then
good.
we cut to the alley. Hank is meeting with the guys. He's got his girdle on because
Mhm.
Peggy recommends he wears his back brace, and he
Mhm.
calls it a girdle. Boomhauer is cutting a tree branch
They're
with like one of
pruning the
those
tree.
extendable like branch cutters. we get a Cotton flashback as they're talking,
Yes.
just like about sex and how like they learned about sex. We get a flashback of Cotton bringing Hank to see a horse get fucked, right?
Yeah, so they're out pruning the tree, and we'll see the tree. We'll see the tree pruning kind of like throughout the rest. Yeah, we'll see it the rest
It's
of
a
the
through line
episode.
in the episode. Yeah.
And then we get a flashback of Cotton, and it's two cows. And Cotton's on the fence, like, hooping and hollering, and he's like, "What you crying for, boy? It's a good show. It's a damn good show."
So good. Yeah,
Yeah,
and then I believe immediately after that, Hank takes Bobby to go do the same.
just about. We get a Dale conspiracy theory when the boys
Okay.
are at the trees there. Dale talks about sex education being a conspiracy to control population, and he ends up saying that the Chinese will invade once the population is so low, which is actually still a relevant conspiracy theory
That's
today.
the second one that is like still that could just be said in 2023 and pass off as colloquial.
Yeah, there are some folks out there in some of those birth control anti-abortion movements who believe that
Chinese conspiracy.
Maybe not necessarily that it's a full-on Chinese conspiracy, but it is about like population control. So that's a conspiracy theory that is still kind of bubbling around today.
Gotta love it.
They do, while they're in the alley, they suggest that Boomhauer teaches Bobby.
Oh yeah.
And we get a nice little Boomhauer ramble. And at the very end of it, he's, talking about dang old condom machine, old dispenser, you don't put in 50 cents in there, talking about her needs is how he ends it.
Yep. Something also that I noticed in the prior scene when Peggy's talking to Bobby in his room, you can hear the TV. Bobby's watching something. I looked it up to see if anyone had like referenced it. He's actually watching Barney the dinosaur.
Yeah, I picked up on that too.
Yeah. But yeah, after that, Hank takes Bobby to go see the birds and the bees, to see a horse get fucked. On that drive, Whataburger. We see one in the
Whataburger
background.
and a Dairy Queen.
Yep. But I saw the Whataburger and I was like, oh, yes.
Hell yeah.
Better than In-N-Out. Another hot take.
Oh, 100%. And I'm not going to fight about it in the comments, but
I am. Come at me.
Yeah, Brad will fight about it.
At Brad the Human.
Love
at Hill
Whataburger.
Kings Pod.
Yeah,
me. I don't even eat meat.
Yeah. Let us know your fast food takes, and we'll tell you why Whataburger is better than anything that you are going to suggest.
It all comes down to the honey butter chicken biscuit, man.
It does. Hank takes Bobby, and then they they leave in kind of a rush because the in the flashback, the dairy farm is an actual like cow farm. In Bobby's version, it's a
insemination plant.
It's an insemination plant. Is that the character Gracie there that you were referencing? The that voice actor?
Yeah, I think.
Oh my God, it's so juicy.
I think that character is Gracie.
Okay.
I think that's who it is.
That's Mary Shear. Shout out to the goat.
I was trying to figure out which other ladies that it could be, and the only other like ladies that we see in this episode are a little bit further on.
But he takes Bobby to see a horse get inseminated, so it doesn't work out exactly as planned. Shortly after that, we get another death threat from Dale. Peggy finds out that some right-wing nut job called the school, and now they need a substitute to teach the class, and turns out that is going to be Peggy. So approaching the crux of the episode's conflict there. Peggy is now teaching the class. Anything stand out was a pretty short scene.
Yeah, one of the things I like there, and it's, I'm watching it back on a streaming service, of course. One of the things I think that's cool to still see is you can tell where the commercial breaks are built into it originally there. Because at that phone call scene, we get a nice, like gulp and then cut to commercial there from Hank. Because he asks, like, who is it? And she says, the substitute teacher of the year. And he goes, I don't suppose it's 95,
Yeah.
96. And then it's a gulp cut to commercial. Like, I feel like they have really good commercial cuts, which is something we don't necessarily see quite as much in
In
news
the age
shows.
of streaming, brother.
Mhm.
Yeah. But yeah, once we come back, we see Peggy flipping through a textbook while Luann does her beauty school homework. They reference the 14 stages of arousal, which
Which are
Luann
now
corrects
18.
Peggy and says there's 18 stages. This scene, we also get a Peggy flashback. So we get a young Peggy,
Yes.
get a flashback of her mom mentioning a monthly visitor and giving her the loveliness of woman.
Who? Uncle
Which,
Joe?
yeah, and it's all just pictures of flowers. I feel
Uh-huh.
like that's so accurate to how a lot of women were taught about their menstrual cycles.
I mean, I would have no way of knowing, but it seems like a pretty accurate description of someone who would have grown up in the time frame that Peggy
Yeah.
grew up in.
Did you have sex ed class?
I had.
How did you learn about fucking?
So I was
Slash,
born
tell
in
me about how
93.
you lost your virginity too. I want to know that.
Yeah. We're getting deep. Well, actually, that's going to be behind the paywall.
Oh
That's
my God,
Patreon.
it's so juicy.
We had, so Bobby is in 5th grade. It is quoted whenever
Kinda
this is
skirted
happening.
my question there.
Well, I'm getting to it, bruh. So in 5th grade, I remember we had a general health class that was not exactly about like sex or abstinence, but was
It was taught
more
by a
about,
general.
huh?
It was taught by a general.
Yes. Yes. We just had a health class in 5th grade, but then I think in middle school and then again in high school, we did have some like separate assemblies in both of those places that were.
Assembly.
Mhm.
Damn.
Yeah, there was like a whole, I think it was in 7th grade, and then they did it again sophomore
Yeah.
year. I feel like there was like a whole day or like a half day dedicated kind of like to it. So we actually had fairly comprehensive, I guess that's fairly comprehensive sex education
Yeah.
at my in my school systems growing up. And then, I learned the finer points, of course, from the internet.
Yeah.
We all did.
Yeah. They like wheeled in the TV and showed us a video. But I
Mhm.
remember like around that time, shout out to Jeremy Doucette.
The deuce.
He brought like printed out pictures, like he probably just like Googled boobs or something on the computer and like brought printed out pictures, and that's where I got most of my knowledge.
Hell yeah.
We did get caught because this was at school. But how'd you lose your virginity? Tell me about it.
That's hilarious. Oh my God. One of my favorite parts of the scene between Luann and Peggy is Peggy asks Luann, Luann, how does it feel to live without shame of any kind? Does it feel good? And Luann
says
thinks about it. She goes, yeah, it does feel pretty good.
They also reference C. Everett Koop
Yes.
in this scene.
Yes.
And he was the Surgeon General at the time. He was a pediatric,
yes,
like healthcare provider, I guess. He is one of the few Surgeon Generals who was a household name because he was Surgeon General during the AIDS crisis.
Yes.
So, a little fun fact on C. Everett Koop.
Yes, I did some C. Everett Koop research as well. He apparently had a mustacheless beard, which is very interesting. If you guys want to look up C. Everett Koop, Koop spelled Koop, he had a beard without a mustache. And I guess at the time, the Surgeon Generals kind of dressed, they almost look like Navy admirals.
Yeah.
So he's got some funny pictures of that time if you want to go look him up. Supposedly he was a really conservative guy, but I looked into some of that HIV AIDS thing a bit more in depth. He, for the most part, fell on the right side as much as you could in
Yeah.
the Reagan administration and in the 80s on the AIDS crisis. I guess there was a pivotal part of his administration had to do with sending out by mail really comprehensive information about the AIDS crisis. So he actually took an effort to inform the public of the AIDS crisis, like from an actual like health-based thing and not like a scare tactic-based thing. And I guess it kind of pissed off a bunch of people,
Conservatives.
so much so that the Frank Zappa song Promiscuous is written specifically about C. Everett Koop.
That's a good pull.
It's
Oh
it's
my
very
god,
interesting.
he on X Games mode.
Yeah. So go listen to Promiscuous, not the modern version, not Promiscuous Girl.
Promiscuous girl.
Yeah, the original Frank Zappa Promiscuous is about C. Everett Koop specifically. He is named in it. Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
Good pull.
Well, they're in the kitchen too. I also wanted to point out this is another, we talked about it in the pilot. This is another instance where we see some nice competency and intellect from Luann, where she kind of gets a lot of reputation for being, kind of ditzy and dumb. But whenever it comes to sexual, research here, she's like pretty straightforward and pretty competent.
Very like supportive of Peggy in this episode too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So don't count Luann out. She's not dumb.
I love Luann.
Yeah, I do too.
From this scene, we get Bobby and Joseph in Bobby's room. Bobby is giving his letting Joseph choose one of his friend's action figures, and he asks if he can shoot them with BBs, and Bobby says yes, and he's like, "Oh, well then Ross." Which Jaffiel,
yeah, for sure.
Who's your favorite friend? Were you a Friends guy?
Not
I love
necessarily
Friends.
a big Friends guy.
I think is one of the best sitcoms of all time.
My
Bite me.
best friend is Frenifer Annis friend.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
probably. Yeah. Speaking of sexual awakenings and Jennifer Aniston.
Don't even get me started.
Oh my God, it's so juicy.
I think I don't know if every male pop culture podcaster has to talk about it, but
the just love for Jennifer Aniston in the 90s.
On Friends.
Aniston Fanister.
Yeah.
But Rachel is actually my favorite Friends character.
She is the best.
She shows the most growth. She starts as like a spoiled rich kid. By the end, she's like a boss ass, like successful businesswoman. Yeah.
Yeah, and you really can't choose any of the other ones, so she's kind of the default.
You can't choose any of the other ones. What about fucking Chandler, dude?
I'm not a Chandler guy.
You don't like Chandler?
Yeah, hop into our inbox if you guys want to pile your bad friends takes on us. Tell us which one is your favorite friend or not.
Yeah, sound off. Maybe we do a poll for the 7 people that are going to listen to this.
Yeah.
So yeah, Joseph takes the Ross. We go back to the alley after this. It's now Hank who's trimming the tree branch. And he reveals to the rest of the crew that Peggy is going to be the sex ed teacher now.
Yes, because Dale starts to theoretically threaten the new sex ed teacher again. And Hank says, that's my wife. And Dale is like, I thought Peggy was your wife. One thing I noticed here and in some of the other scenes is kind of an animation note with just the way the backgrounds and all the animation is drawn. I love the way they do smoke and light. And this is just a very interesting, cool looking animation for the time. I was also noticing when Peggy is up at night studying her book, the way they do kind of like a spot lamp. It's just some cool animation there. I like.
Yeah, I do find like the scenes at night in this show generally stand out to me. Like the way that they light dark rooms it feels very unique to King of the Hill. I do really love, I didn't realize how much I love the animation style of this show, but it's quite good. I wonder if they ever switch. I mean, they have to switch to digital animation at some point because everyone did. Like The Simpsons did, but I remember when The Simpsons switched from hand drawn, and it just like it's not the same. I don't like it nearly as much.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll get to that in future episodes.
Yeah. From there we get Peggy gossiping with some moms at a baseball game. Good quote that I really loved was "A little intellectual hooey is a good thing."
Uh,
Very Peggy,
yeah,
striving to be an intellectual.
the gals are sticking up for Peggy, and one of them is saying like, Peggy Hill is not the type of teacher who puts intellectual hooey above common decency.
Yeah. And she's like,
talk
"Man, a little intellectual hooey's a good thing."
talk about some more modern themes.
Yep. I also loved the kid, the like super dry kid who's like, "Your
Mm-hmm.
mom's our sex ed teacher. We're gonna see your
We're
boobs."
gonna see your
And
boobs.
Bobby's just like, "So."
He says so, and then Bobby gets up off the bench, and then he turns to the next kid. Do we know that kid's name? But he turns to the other kid
No,
on the
but I
bench. He
love
goes,
him.
"Your dad lost his job."
Yeah, so good. And then
What is his name?
Bobby gets a hit, I believe, and starts running. Peggy yells for him to
Mm-hmm.
go all of the way. She gets called a pervert, or Bobby
Mm-hmm.
gets called a pervert. In the next scene, we get Dale threatening another threatening call from Dale, but
Another.
Hank answers.
Uh-huh.
And Hank just gives the phone to Peggy. So that makes me believe that this is a common occurrence for Dale. They're all pretty used to him.
Yeah.
You don't know who I am.
And Peggy picks it up and she goes, "Yellow Dale."
He still does it. It's
Yeah.
so good. Also, no
Dale's
caller ID.
uh-huh. He's just answering the phone for anybody
Yeah,
that
just
calls.
answering wild. After this, we get a little montage of Peggy kind of amping herself up,
Mm-hmm.
practicing saying some of these words, cutting to Hank trimming the tree branches even more. We're getting a lot of like
Yeah.
Peggy doing this, Hank trimming the tree branches, Peggy studying in bed with a headlamp on. Hank eventually trims the tree into a penis,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like that's
Yeah.
the joke.
Yes. I think yeah, at the very end of that montage, Bill is looking at it. And I think he says, looks pretty clean, but old Sigmund Freud might have something to say about it.
Yep.
And so then Hank goes to, just cut the rest of the tree down. And then I think from there we go into the bedroom scene. It's like the last night
Yes. Yeah.
before they're going to school, and Peggy's putting some lotion
Yes.
on her pretty hands and feet.
Pretty feet and hands, which I looked up. Real thing. They still make it. It's available on Amazon now.
Okay, somebody send us a case.
Yeah.
That dry kid's name is Dooley.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Dooley.
Dooley. Okay. I
Dooley is
love
that.
Dooley.
Yeah, he's funny.
But Peggy, after this scene, finally breaks the seal saying hat, penis, and gets the word penis out, breaks
Yeah.
the seal, starts yelling them all out. Interesting story from this. I was watching a little like behind the scenes featurette about like the making of the show before
Mhm.
we started actually doing any episodes. And the voice actor who does Peggy, I'm blanking on her name at the moment.
I don't have it.
I feel like we should know that.
We definitely should. I have some more stuff from the bedroom scene I want to talk about too before we can talk about
Okay, yeah, bring
happiness.
that up. I'll
Um,
learn who Peggy's name is.
Peggy offers to lotion up Hank, and he's just like not taking the hint that
Oh, that she
she's
wants to get down and dirty.
yeah, and she's offering to put some on his elbows, and Hank's like, "Where are my elbows going to be that they need to be smooth?"
That is good.
Um, yeah, and then exactly. There's another little nugget in there whenever Peggy talks about she took an oath as a
Yeah.
substitute teacher, and she's needs to be called on to teach whenever, wherever.
She carries a
And
badge and a gun.
Hank, yeah, exactly. Hank is like, well, you weren't too proud to pick and choose when you had those Randy Travis tickets.
Yeah.
And then he's like, those kids will never get to make their ceramic ashtrays, will they? Or something like that. So, Peggy will violate her sacred substitute teacher oath if it's for Randy Travis tickets, apparently.
Anything for Randy Travis.
Yeah. But the mirror scene the next day, That is one of my favorite King of the Hill scenes where Peggy is talking herself into saying penis.
Yes, and Peggy is voiced by Kathy Najimy.
Kathy Najimy.
So shout out Kathy. She was also in Hocus Pocus, apparently.
Ooh.
She's done some work. She's prolific. But I saw that behind the scenes featurette, and they were talking about choosing the voice of Peggy, and when she read that script and like delivered those lines for the first time, she said that was where she really nailed in the character, and that's where they were also like, okay, yeah, that's Peggy.
Yeah.
So that was the line that really like solidified the character for her and what she auditioned with, essentially.
That's interesting because just like the first couple episodes or any of these early cartoon shows, it takes a while for them to hit their stride. And I did notice one thing in the very beginning of the episode. Whenever Peggy is talking to Hank about his back, she kind of says his name as like honk. It's like a little bit long.
I was like, honk.
Yeah, she's like, hi. Yeah, it's a little more like higher in the nasal cavity than it is. Yeah. So I was like, that's kind of interesting. Probably just one of those like early season quirks.
Hank also calls Peggy Pegleg at one point. Is that a common thing?
I think that is a common nickname. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, the happiness, penis.
Vagina.
I said that, said that so much as a teen. I'm sure it was super super cringy.
Penis.
That whole segment was one of those teenage boys just quote movies and shows at each other types of things. Did you pick up on the one body part in there that is not a sex organ?
He says uvula, right?
She says uvula. Uvula is in the back of your throat.
Well, I mean, you're doing it right.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, jeez.
You know what I'm saying? Geez. That throat goat.
Yes. There's another line. There's another line in there somewhere. Peggy asks, do you want Bobby growing up as repressed as we did? And Hank is like, well, sure we do.
Yeah, this essentially results in Hank refusing to sign the permission slip. So he puts his foot down, doesn't allow Bobby to do the class now. Hank's kind of an asshole in this episode.
A little bit, yeah. He's definitely showing his prudishness.
It comes through in the end, but spoiler alert, by the way, if you're watching the episode during the episode of this, spoiler.
Yeah, he gets himself there eventually.
So yeah, after this, we get Hank brings Bobby to work with him instead of going to school the next day. We get our first view of Strickland Propane. Bobby is just asking questions to Hank about what he thinks they're talking about. Them? What do you think she's telling those guys?
There's a sexy propane girl calendar.
Yep.
That he starts looking at.
That's my work. He asks Hank if they have sex anymore, and Hank says, can't you talk about something pleasant?
Yeah. Bobby tells him he says, you don't have to worry about me, Dad, because I'm never going to have sex. And that's kind of where Hank starts to turn around, and he kind of talks himself into his like realize and compromise.
Yeah, and meanwhile, we're kind of like cutting back and forth to Peggy introing the class very nervously. She's stalling. We go back to Bobby telling Hank he'll never have sex. And that's where Hank kind of realizes that he's wrong and he's being an asshole. And we get kind of the climax of Hank coming in with Bobby, telling him to go into the class. Peggy gets that boost of confidence and then starts teaching, and all of the kids except for Bobby leave.
Because they didn't get their permission slip signed.
Yep. So it's just Bobby and Peggy. And we end the episode there, right?
Just about. That's where the episode ends. But did you watch all the way through the credits for the post-credit scene?
I think that my Hulu auto played.
Damn, you dragging them.
I got
dragging them in the pod. There is there's an after credit scene. Peggy comes home. Oh, before, one thing I did want to note, as Peggy is walking into the school, she has a big lumpy bag and it starts to vibrate as she gets out of her car.
I
So
did not
Peggy
catch
has,
that.
you didn't
What?
catch that? Peggy
What?
has, she has a bunch of sex toys in her
That's
bag.
awesome. What?
Where did she get them? Did she already have them? And she's just, they're like her dirty little secret. She doesn't show or
Whoa.
tell with Hank. Did she have
Shit.
to go out and purchase a bunch of sex toys? Because her bag is big and lumpy and it vibrates when she gets out of the car. So did she
Huh.
go and get them? And if so, is Tom Landry Middle School going to reimburse her for the sex toys? We don't ever see a sex toy because this is still the 90s. I don't think you could put a sex toy on screen, but her bag does
I'm
vibrate.
pretty sure you can't do that now.
Probably not.
Yeah.
But the after credit scene, yeah, Peggy comes home. She's looking for Bobby and Luann or whatever. Hank comes in and tells her that he sent the kids to the movies for the night.
For a double feature.
Yeah, for a double feature.
Yeah, I did see this.
He turns some music on and he says, as I recall, you like to be
You like
dipped.
being dipped.
Mhm.
Throws his back out again, full circle, callback. And then he says, like, well, we're already down here.
Mhm. He
So
also
they be
says,
fucking on the floor?
yeah, with his bad back. So I guess Peggy's on top there, I suppose. Don't look it up. Don't
yeah, we
Google
don't
any
need
of that.
Rule 34, King of the Hill.
No. There in that end scene, Hank has smooth elbows. He does point out to Peggy that he's got some smooth elbows, indicating that he has lotioned himself up.
Pretty
so Hank,
feet and hands
yeah,
style.
he's got a plan. And then just a little tie back in earlier, there's a nice Randy Travis song playing that he puts on. So earlier in the episode, he talks about, going to the Randy Travis concert instead of teaching that substitute class. And I wrote it down here. It's I Won't Need You Anymore. It's playing by Randy Travis, which is a really sweet old country love song.
Sounds a little like this. Oh shit, wrong song.
No, that's not it.
I do like Randy Travis.
Yeah.
He's one of the good ones.
Mm-hmm. He's got a lovely, lovely voice. So yeah, that's Square Peg.
What'd you think of the episode overall? How many should we have a rating scale for episodes? I feel like we should give them some sort of ranking, esoteric.
Yeah.
So like how many propane tanks?
How many beers out of the 12 pack would I drink? Or the 6 pack maybe? You want to go 1 to 12 or 1 to 6?
Let's do 1 to 6.
Yeah, I don't think we need anything
How
with
many
a middle
Alamo beers?
Yeah, I think for this one, I'm going to call it a solid 4.
Really?
It might even jump up to 5 for me just because this episode in particular, I feel like got reran quite a lot. So I feel like I had seen this one a whole lot as a youth. It stuck out to me a lot. I remembered a lot of it going into it. So I'm going to drink 4 of those beers at least.
This is a solid 5.5-er for me. I mean, it was nominated for an Emmy, man. This is a classic episode.
Oh, pardon me.
Yeah. I thought it was solid. I don't have as like vivid of a memory. I remember it as being a standout episode, but it was so well written. We get so many little ends are tied up at the end. There's so many well delivered jokes. Such a good, strong establishment of Peggy's character too. Because the last episode we didn't get a lot of Peggy in the pilot. This was almost a second pilot.
Yeah.
But just for Peggy, because Peggy's such an important character in this show. And it establishes all of it, like her insecurities, her being the substitute teacher of the year, her relationship with Hank, her relationship with Bobby. Solid episode. So yeah, 5.5 Alamo.
Well, if you're going to the cooler, go ahead and give me one more beer. I'll take a 5th.
You're gonna I swayed you to 5?
If you're going to the cooler, man, but I'm not gonna get up.
Let's go. Should we do our final segment?
Yeah. Are you ready to crown the king?
Who is the Hill King?
I
Who's your
think
Hill King
obviously
from this episode?
it's got
The
to be
Hill
Peggy.
King, for those who this may be their first episode because they skipped the last episode because it looked and sounded like shit.
Mhm.
The Hill King is the segment of the show where we decide who the MVP of the episode was. Could be based on jokes, could be based on character, could be based on how many times we saw their feet. Just who you thought
Mhm.
was the king of this hill. And you said
I
Peggy?
think Peggy. It's Peggy for me in this one. Obviously, it's named after her. You say it was nominated for an Emmy.
It was.
So yeah, it's
I don't
definitely
just say that. That's a fact.
it's definitely Peggy. If I have to take a Hill Prince as a close backup, I don't know.
You're just adding rules now.
Yeah, man. It's episode 2. We can do whatever we want, baby. Um, you go ahead and tell me your king, and then I'll crown my next heir.
I'm gonna go left field here. I'm going Luann. The scene, Luann being so supportive of Peggy stood out to me a lot. I really liked that scene. I liked the delivery of the like, what is it like to have no shame?
mhm.
I think that was my hardest chuckle during the episode. We didn't get a lot of Luann, but I think that she stood out the most
Mhm.
as the goat of the episode.
All right, interesting. I think my next heir to the throne is it might be Dooley, just because I love the line.
I almost went with him, but I couldn't remember his name, and I
I
didn't want to
love the
look it up.
line about we're gonna see your mom's boobs.
Yeah. And your
Your
dad
dad
lost his
lost his
job.
job.
It's so good. Classic.
So funny.
Well, if you get a hill prince, I want a hill prince.
Go
I
for it,
want to
man.
have one too.
Tell me about your next heir.
It's Peggy, obviously. I should have picked her as Hill King, but I wanted to do the same bullshit that you did in episode 1. So, how's it feel?
It feels good. Any love for Luann is good.
Yeah, I do love Luann.
So
All
who's
right.
your next? Oh, you picked Luann. Sorry, I'm dumb.
I picked Luann, and then Peggy is the runner up. But that was
course.
episode 2. Solid ep, classic ep. We did it. We did a great job, I think.
Mhm.
I think we're naturals at this shit.
Yeah, dude.
If you are watching on YouTube, it would be really cool if you subscribed to the channel. If you liked it, if you
Mhm.
thought it was fun, you could hit the notification buttons. You could like it. You could share it with a friend. If you know Mike Judge, you could reach out.
Mhm.
You could tell him about us.
Even if you didn't like the ep, a subscribe
like
would
it.
really help. Help
Still
us.
subscribe and like it and share.
Yeah, help us fight the algorithm.
Yeah.
Hopefully you like us more than you like the algorithm. So
yeah, share it on Facebook too. Share it everywhere. Instagram, post about it.
You can interact with us.
Yeah, we'll answer
on Instagram if you'd like. Someone will answer.
One of the bots that we hired.
Yeah.
One of the sex robots. But yeah, follow us on Instagram. It's at Hill King Pod, Hill Kings Pod. You can follow us there. Are we on Threads?
Maybe.
Yeah, we'll think about Threads. I don't know if we'll be on Threads. Good app.
Yeah. We'll see you next time.
We'll see you all next week for King of the Hill episode 3, Order of the Straight Arrow.
Ooh.
Hill Kings out, bitches.
Bye.